this is Chala Dincoy, the CEO and founder of the Repositioning Experts. Welcome back to another edition of my podcast, Polish My Pitch, The Deep Dive, where we find out more about Marty Park's business. Welcome, Marty.
Thanks, Chala. Great to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. Tell us what you do.
So most people call me a business coach, although our business actually does a little bit more than that. I started out doing a lot of coaching work and found that it's pretty easy to just give people a laundry list of Chala, here's 10 more things you need to do this week. And so my company or my business diversified, where we started realizing that it's not fair to take a business owner and first off, make them a trainer, where here, go explain this to all your staff. So we do, our businesses really started as coaching, then it became coaching and training. And then the last piece we now help clients with is execution. So we're a coaching, training, and execution company. And the third piece of that is oftentimes an old business owner desperately needs to hire some people. And you say, well, why haven't you gotten to that? And they say silly things like, I don't really know how Indeed works. Or they're like, we need a new website. Why haven't you got on that? I don't really know how to buy websites. Oh, and so we found that if we could help them with some of the execution pieces through little blocks that they run into, that we could be an extension to help them in some of their marketing, their digital marketing, their hiring, their admin stuff. We've had clients who said, well, I need to set up a file system in the cloud, but I don't know how Dropbox works. We're like, these are the most basic things. So we help with a lot of basic implementation and execution in all those places. We help train the staff, and then that all supports the strategic work we do from a coach advisor perspective. So I'm in the coaching space, but I think our approach is pretty unique, and it's something I've developed or refined over the last 15 years.
I love it. It's almost like, I teach my clients something called like the process branding, which is, how the Staples has that button and there's no actual human waiting for you to press that button and they're going to run and get your orders and come and bring it to you. But it's that whole, branding around that process of, so I love when companies have a process that they develop themselves, and take it even one step further. If you haven't, think about maybe branding it and making that your differentiator.
That is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, thanks. So tell me, how did you learn how to do all this? You're helping all these people. How did you learn?
So I was very fortunate and blissfully ignorant to dive into entrepreneurship when I was 21. So I thought at 21, I would be retired at 21 and a half. How tough could it be? But like everybody who starts a business, I realized, wow, this is a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And then I had to go through the learning about the sales piece to start to generate revenue. And then we had to learn slowly about what marketing was working and not working. And then we hired people and had to learn about the HR. And we learned about, just like everybody does in business, all the different moving pieces. And I was lucky to have started early so that by the time I was 27 or 28, I was on my third company. And that actually led me, I sold my software business, went to work for somebody in the software business, had a great opportunity to sell to Fortune 500 companies all over North America. And on the side, started a bar and restaurant business. And so I got to go play and be a bartender. But what I found was that ironically, having a restaurant bar was really rewarding, in that by Monday, you got lots of feedback from the nachos were incredible. The band was great. Man, I was so drunk on Saturday, whatever it was, but there was feedback. In the software business, I got almost no feedback. People were like, yeah, we'll install it Q4 next year. And I'd be like, wait, it's Q2 this year. And I realized it wasn't having a real impact. And that led me into the coaching space. And so I started with a coaching franchise, got some good framework, but really started to realize that my own experience as an entrepreneur was a lot more valuable, right? It was real, it was practical. And so I set up my coaching company, Evolve, now 19 years ago. And over that 19 years, I've also continued to run other businesses. I was the CEO of a public company. I had a marketing agency that I sold off. I have had restaurants. I was in the franchise business. So I've always believed that to really be a great entrepreneur coach or a good coach advisor for somebody who's running a business, that it was
you have to do it yourself.
Yeah. And that's probably been my big differentiator, but it really was the practicality of like, this coaching's going well, but I'm getting clients who are overwhelmed with just the ongoing list of to-dos. And then it was like, okay, or the client where very classically I said to a gentleman, I wanted him to go talk to his 14 salespeople. He was in insurance. And at the end of the meeting, I said, how did it go? And he said, they're all idiots. I said, what do you mean they're all idiots? He said, yeah, none of them got it. And so in that moment, I realized, oh, okay, well, I've met some of these guys. They're not all idiots. Maybe I sent the messenger and it wasn't fair. So I said to this owner, you mind if I come in next sales meeting and I represent this and do some training around it? He was like, hey, be my guest. But in doing that, I said to the sales, all the producers, hey, have you guys ever heard this stuff before? They're like, no. I said, your boss hasn't brought any of this up with you? They're like, no. And I realized whatever he said, he was not passing along the training message I was trying to get to about sales. So that immediately was the point where I was like, helping train people in our client companies is going to be now a staple. And so it went from that, again, that coaching to then training. And in the last 5 years, we've noticed that it's the simplest things. You know, it's been 10 weeks. Why haven't you started on the website? I don't know how to buy a website. Right. Of course you don't. So having had marketing agency experience, maybe we can help you with that. And so it's really been to accelerate the change within a client's organization so they are getting those results of making more money, more profit, working less, the company's growing. And it feels like it's been a really a great progression of our business to support clients in their success.
That's amazing. First of all, you don't look a day over 25. So I don't know how you started when you were 21. It's the Calgary cold, I think.
That's what it's exactly
preserving you.
That's right. Slowly.
It's the Neanderthal. Yeah. I didn't want to call you a Neanderthal, but I almost did. But what business did you start with? I am always fascinated because
I started with the first company. I started with a good friend of mine, Greg. We started an interactive voice response software company. So it's the same technology in voicemail or in any sort of phone system where, you know, you're interacting with press 1 for this, press 3 for this, got automated recordings. And with that, then we spun out an audio production company because we realized getting people to voice the prompts was really difficult. And that blew up into, you know, everything right up to radio production. In fact, ironically, having gotten out of that business, I then recorded my audiobook, I guess last year, and it was back in the very studio that I had built out like 17 years ago. And so that was really rewarding to say to the production guy, hey, I think I know this piece of carpet. I think I actually stapled this piece of carpet to this thing myself 17 years ago. And now that I think you're using the same piece of carpet 17 years later, it's kind of creepy.
But I find it so fascinating that you were so young and such a good, you know, like you were so on top of it in terms of being an entrepreneur, whereas most people that age, like me, are pushed into like university and then into a job. So like, were your parents entrepreneurs?
No. So funny enough, my dad really is entrepreneurial. And after I had started my own company, he went to work for himself. He had tried a couple times to launch a company. But I mean, I have 3 siblings. And so with 4 kids, there was times where he needed to stop doing his own business and go back and get a job just to provide for the family. But when I said I was leaving university in my 4th year of the commerce program and less than a year away from a business degree and an English degree, and said, I'm going to go start a software company, my parents were devastated. They were like, where did we go wrong? You were such a good kid. So there wasn't a lot of immediate support. And we made a lot of mistakes. I will tell you that Greg and I played business for a while, in that we really weren't. We were busy making stuff and, you know, building out our brochures, but weren't in front of customers. And we had to go to Greg's dad and say, would you backstop with your house a $250,000 line of credit? And when we did that, Greg's dad said, I'm going to come meet with you guys on Saturday morning and find out what the hell's going on over there. And then soon he invited my dad over, and then the dads became our advisory board. And that, I have to tell you, is having an advisory board like that, where they then they invited their friend over who was an accountant, and we started having these regular meetings. It really forced us to look at what we were doing and what was effective. And we used their guidance to be able to say, okay, well, here's what else we should do. So even just that, Greg's dad worked for the city. So it was great. Although he wasn't a business guy, he had enough life experience and outside perspective that he could show us what we couldn't see in our own business. And that for me was also something I remembered when I had the chance to get into coaching, that the value of hearing somebody else say, here's what's going on in your business, and then look and go, oh my God, you're right. How could I not see that? That
Yeah.
I'm really, that element of, as you know, you're in the forest with a tree right here and you can't
Yeah.
see the forest.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I love to ask this because I'm actually doing a summit about mistakes. Can you
Mm.
believe this? And it's the marketing mistakes summit. So, I mean, first let's start with the biggest mistakes you see businesses making, and then more specifically, marketing mistakes.
So one of the biggest mistakes, I think, is not recognizing that sales and marketing, both going hand in hand, really have to be an engine that you're focused on every single day. That
Right.
most clients we deal with, whether they're a $10 million business or a $1 million business or the guy who's just starting out, are all sort of desperate for more leads and would like more business. Very rarely do we come across somebody who's like, I've got so much business, I'm turning it away. I mean, it does happen, but that's pretty unusual. So I like one of the biggest mistakes is not making that sales and marketing a focus ongoing, right? That it's just a regular, the same way customer delivery is something that everybody gets focused on every single day, production and delivery, that sales and marketing almost goes off to the wayside. We don't have time to do that right now. And that's a huge mistake I see.
Yeah, that's good. So then when they do market, what big mistakes are you seeing?
Not enough metrics. Like, I think it's working. What do you mean you think it's working? Well, the rep says it's working great for me. Right. The person who sold it to you says it's working. Okay. They don't know. So yeah, measurement. They're not doing enough. They say, well, we've got a website and we've started an AdWords campaign, or rather, we've got a website and we're doing Instagram. Okay. And what are you doing with that? Well, I don't know. We're just posting stuff. And it's usually something where, like whoever was lowest on the totem pole is now the social media person.
Exactly. Right.
So it's not, I guess, as we're talking about it, it's not strategic, right? They're not engaging somebody to be like, I really need a plan for marketing. They are dabbling in it. And most of the time, as you, I think, appreciate, it's sort of a waste of money or time and effort, as opposed to really becoming, again, an engine that's creating clicks and phone calls and leads.
Exactly. So I'm about to go on. I do Tuesday tea time with Chala every Tuesday, and I'm going to do it shortly. So I want to selfishly, I want to get your opinion to weigh in, because I'm going to give some advice about this. What is the danger for companies that are growing, that are in hyper growth right now during COVID? And I've met some.
Actually, I have a couple of clients who are like that, where they are in, I mean, and good for them, they're in hyper growth. I think the biggest challenge is managing the scale. So you're adding people, and I can think of a client right now. They are adding like 10 people a week. And so the culture's lost, because you're asking the guy beside you and he goes, I've only been here for a week and a half. I don't know either. And so like maintaining the culture, maintaining a performance standard, and understanding like where knowledge is within the organization. I think the customer service, like maintaining that level of service delivery, becomes a real problem. I've got a client where they have massive growth and now they're struggling with the international shipping problems. So we're trying to really be proactive with all the customers about here's what's going on and how we're trying to mitigate it. Where in the past, he's just been really quiet and gets a lot of angry phone calls. I think communication becomes a big problem, right? Like senior leadership or the CEO being able to say like, hey, we haven't got all this figured out. I know this is putting strain on you, and sort of the empathy of leadership sometimes isn't where it needs to be, because people are feeling like they're being pulled in both directions or coming apart at the seams, and they don't always know that management's aware of it, or that the owner knows and feels for them, or that, hey, behind the scenes we're working on it. So I think communication is something that falls down too. Those are the three that come to mind.
Yeah, those are good ones. One of them I didn't have, but the one that I did put, which is one you said before, which is they're not focused on marketing right now because they can't even fulfill enough. But what's going to happen when there's a lull?
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. They've turned that off, and then instead of slowing it down, they've just shut it down. And then, and you're right. 6 months from now, maybe it's not firing like that. And then they're like, we have no marketing going.
Exactly. Yeah. So what new and exciting projects are you working on for 2021? For 2021,
I've started to take, in light of COVID, we used to do a fair amount of live training. And so we just finished an 8-week course that we did online. So it was live online, but we're now breaking that up and going to publish it as a sales program that's fully online. And then the same thing, we've got a marketing program with that. And I'm working on getting my book in a big distribution deal for my book. And other than that,
what's the name of the book?
The book's called Tiger by the Tail, 99 Secrets to Tame and Master Your Business.
I remember you saying this. Yes. That's awesome.
And then we've added a couple of coaches to our team. So that's been really exciting
nice.
Too. Yeah.
So would you consider yourself in hypergrowth?
I don't know about hyper, but it's certainly, it's fast paced based on the
That's great.
we had in 2020 and what we're looking at for this year. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all this wisdom. Now, how do our viewers and listeners reach you?
The easiest way is you can visit my website. It's just www.martypark.com. It's MartyPark.com. Or they can find me on social at the Marty Park. Or you can go to Amazon or Audible, and my book's there, Tiger by the Tail. But yeah, if you Google Marty Park, if you can't find me, I don't know what planet you're on.
Is there some sort of like comedian or someone that we would find?
I hope not. My last name is English, although there's lots of Korean guys named Park, as most people know.
Really?
I know there's a Marty Park in Korea because he's reached out to say, hey, we've got the same name.
No, I can't believe it. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
That has never happened to me, as I'm sure you'll
I bet.
appreciate.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marty Park. It was such a pleasure having you.
Chala, this has been great. Thank you.